Hey guys, it's Sam. Welcome back to my channel. So I got such a positive response from showing you guys my eyeshadow palette collection, and I told you guys I wanted to start filming some Shop My Stash videos, so I thought that I would continue the trend and keep showing you guys videos of different parts of my collection, maybe say a few things about each product. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to start with foundations and see how far I get in this video. Depending how long it is, I'm going to break it up into parts. Now, I know things like foundations and concealers are not really as much fun as eyeshadow palettes, but because I do want you guys to have like a comprehensive knowledge of my whole collection, we're going to do this today. So these are all of the foundations I have. A lot of these are new to my collection. For a really long time, I've kind of only had, you know, maybe 2 or 3 foundations that I really liked, but I don't know, I go through, sorry, just moving my camera a little bit, I go through phases of what I am buying at certain times, and this past year I found myself in this phase of wanting to buy more foundations, more primers, more concealers, that kind of thing. Kind of get away from what I would consider to be the fun side of makeup and get down to the basics and start finding things that are good for me. So we're going to go through everything here. There's a mix of drugstore and high-end. We're just going to jump into it. So the first thing that I have, we'll start right here. I have the Maybelline, is that what this is? Fit Me Hydrate and Smooth Primer. I am in the shade 130 Buff Beige. They also make this in a like matte and poreless primer, but you guys know me, I'm not really into being matte. I like to be dewy and smooth. I do really like this primer. It definitely does make you feel really hydrated. It blends really well. This shade is, it's so funny because I've been watching a lot of declutters lately and everybody's got like a winter shade and a summer shade. I only have one shade and it tends to be more of a summer shade. I don't know why that is. I think I just like to look tanned, and because I do go tanning sometimes during the winter, it makes more sense for me to have darker shades. So I do really like this. Is it my favorite foundation? No, it is a little bit thicker, a little bit more full coverage than I normally like, but sometimes we all need that. Next one is my L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow. This is another drugstore foundation. This is my favorite drugstore foundation. I am in the shade 204 Natural Buff. I know they make like the regular Infallible. It comes in like a red tube. There's also one that kind of comes in a purpley sort of a tube. This one is by far my favorite. It just is the most, it says radiant finish. It 100% does that. It gives you the most beautiful, like, kind of glow radiance, and it is very like fluid consistency. It's definitely hydrating. It's been really good for my dry skin, and I really like this because it's anywhere from like a light to a medium coverage depending on how much you build it up. Some days we all, like I said, need more coverage. I'm also going to move all the foundations out of the back because I can see that this keeps wanting to focus on them instead of the one in my hand. But I really like this foundation. Alright, let's talk about my first high-end foundation of this video. This is the Guerlain L'Essential Natural Glow 16-Hour Wear Foundation. I am in the shade O2N. N is for neutral. O2 means that I am pale. I really like the bottle. It is very luxurious packaging. The product is okay. It definitely has some like reflect in it, a lot like the L'Oreal Pro Glow. I will say that sometimes this can be quite difficult to work with because it is a more fluid texture. It's a little bit streaky sometimes, which is why I shy away from it. I find that I have a more difficult time getting this to go on smoothly and cleanly than a lot of my other foundations, but it is still really nice, but it is a bit more on the pricey side. This one is probably my most full coverage foundation. This is the Smashbox Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-Hour Wear. I have the shade 2.12 Light. It says Skin Tone, Light, Undertone, Neutral. So I got this because Tati was talking about it. She said like, oh, you only need to use the smallest amount and you get this really beautiful coverage, and it's not cakey and it's not like drying and it doesn't like crease. It's okay. It is very full coverage for me. I think if you were somebody that liked a full coverage kind of foundation, you would really, really like this. For me though, it is a little much. It does settle in some places that I wish it didn't. It does, like when you wear this, you are covered. You are fully like, whatever you want to call it, it is very full coverage. But you know you have makeup on, you know? So like if I were going for a no makeup day, I definitely wouldn't wear this. But if I were going for a day where I was like really just wanted to smooth out my complexion, where maybe I had a long day ahead of me, I would definitely reach for this. And like I said, you only need a very little amount of this product. So even though it is a high-end brand and a little bit more on the pricey side, you know, you're gonna get a lot of use out of this. It's gonna go a long way so long as it doesn't expire. Something else that's pretty new to me, this is the Covergirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk. I had seen this on YouTube commercials and advertisements and even on the TV sometimes. It really intrigued me because it was nourishing. It had coconut milk, aloe extract, dewy finish. I love me a dewy finish. I have the shade 550 Light Medium. I actually really, really like this. It's very fluid. It is very, very like no makeup. It's very light coverage. If you're just looking for sort of a little something to finish off your face, this is a really great option. I really enjoy it, and if you wanted a little bit more dewy or a little bit more luminous, it does mix really well with other products. It's mixed really well with liquid bronzers and also with like liquid highlighters, just to keep that in mind. I really, really like this, and it is a pretty new product. It was one of the last things I bought before I went on my no-buy. Something else that you guys have seen me use a ton, this is my Urban Decay Stay Naked Weightless Liquid Foundation. I have the shade 41NN, which I am pretty sure is too dark for me, but whatever. I'm not going to talk a ton about this because you guys have seen it in a lot of my videos. I did a whole video dedicated just to this and the concealer. I really like this. It is stunning. It is weightless. It is glowy. It just melts into your skin. Very easy to blend. Very easy to build up if you really wanted to. This is a fantastic foundation. Something else that I have not heard talked about anywhere. This is the Bourjois Paris City Radiance. I don't know what they call this. Oh, here we go. Skin Protecting Foundation Brightening Effect. So it is anti-pollution screen, radiance boosting pigments, and 24-hour hydration. So it has no SPF in it, but it does like a lot of other things for you. I am the shade 04 Beige, as you guys can see. I'm torn about how I feel about this foundation, to be completely honest with you guys. It's really, really nice. It is a little bit more on the... Whoa! Hold on. Sorry about that. This foundation decided to go for a tumble. So it is a little bit more on a thicker kind of consistency. I find it kind of is the consistency of like sunscreen. But it does blend out really, really nice. It gives the skin like a really, really nice sort of finish to it. Like I said, I think this one also might be too dark for me. It's oxidizing a little bit. Like it pulls a little bit more orange than I would like it to. I didn't know how to feel about this at first because of the consistency of it. It is a little bit different than anything I'd worked with prior, but ultimately I do really, really like it. I think it's a good foundation. It's a good like drugstore E option. I say E because even in Canada, some drugstore foundations and primers are kind of expensive, but I do really like this, and I do like the finish it gives you, and it is very, very hydrating, so that's also nice. Next foundation I'm going to talk about is my favorite foundation. This is my all-time favorite. This is the MAC Face and Body Foundation. This one is in the shade N5. I also have got a smaller version in N3, which is more of my color than N5. N5 is definitely a summer shade. And it's a little darker. It's to make you have a little bit more of a tan look, a little bit more of a radiant look. I love this. This is the most like fluid working foundation. It blends beautifully. It gives the most beautiful finish to the skin. Super lightweight, I find. Like you can't even feel this when you have it on. It gives about medium coverage, I would say. You could definitely build it up a little bit more if you wanted to, but I tend not to. It's just one of my favorites. It sits well on all primers. It sits well on all like strobing creams. It mixes well with everything if you wanted a little bit more highlight, or if I wanted to use this shade and add a little bit more bronzer. This is just the best foundation. And honestly, at one point in my life, I used to think that MAC foundations were like super freaking expensive. And then I started shopping other brands and I realized that's just not really the case. Like, it's still more expensive than like one of the drugstore foundations, but for a high-end quality foundation, and this is a really big bottle, it's a really good price point. If you're looking for a new foundation, I look no further than this one. I also have that MAC Studio Face and Body Foundation in like a Radiant version. This came out in a limited edition collection. I think it was the Mirage Noir collection. This is in light pearl. This is really beautiful as well. It is definitely more reflective than the other ones. I honestly just sort of mix them together because it's the same consistency, the same base foundation. It's just what it does is a little different. So I like to mix this one in with that N5 to give it a little bit more radiance without changing up the texture or the formula. I don't know if you can get this in the States. I'm pretty sure Marcelle is a Canadian brand. It is the kind of like sister brand to Annabelle. This is the Flawless Luminous Light Infused Foundation. I am in the shade, I don't know. I must have peeled the sticker off. Oh, no, it's on the bottom, Buff Beige. I really like this foundation as well. This one is super, super luminous, super glowy. I like that it has a pump. I'm more inclined to buy foundations with a pump than I am to buy like for example, like when you get the NARS Sheer Glow foundation, it doesn't come with a pump, or like the Maybelline Hydrate and Smooth doesn't have a pump. It's just like a hole in a bottle kind of thing. I really like this. This is another really underrated foundation that I've never really heard anybody talk about. I sort of just picked it up on a whim one day and I'm so happy with it. It really is beautiful. It does, kind of like that Guerlain one, take a little bit more working to get it to sit completely smooth, completely streak free, but I don't mind putting the work in. Since I already showed you guys I have it, this is my NARS Sheer Glow foundation. I am the shade medium 1.5 Vallauris. I'm obsessed with this. This is one of the best foundations I've ever had. I know a lot of people don't really like it, but again, if you like a lighter coverage, something with a little bit of reflect in it, this is the way to go. I've tried other NARS foundations. I'm not a big fan. I don't like the way that they sit on my face. They settle funny. I've never had a problem with this one. It is by far the best one in my opinion. Speaking of NARS, I also have a couple products such as this one that it's not necessarily a foundation. It's more of like a radiant boosting like BB cream sort of thing. So this is the NARS Tinted Glow Booster. I got the shade Light Kalvoya. They had, I want to say medium light, medium, and dark. There were 4 shades. This is a newer product. This stuff is incredible. I love it so much. It's very, very fluid consistency, and it just like I said, it doesn't provide a ton of coverage, but what it does do really, really well is kind of just give you like a dewy kind of all over sort of look. Works really, really nice under makeup, really, really pretty on its own. If you were just like running out of the house one day and just wanted a little something something on just to give your face like a little bit of life, this is fantastic. It is NARS, so it is a little bit expensive, but I really, really like it. Another product I have sort of similar to that is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter for Superstar Youth Glow. I don't know if they call this foundation or if it's like a radiating primer kind of thing. I am in the shade 3 Light Medium. I had to get this off Sephora online. It comes with a big doe foot, and again, just like the NARS, it's just like this most beautiful like sheen glow. Oh, it's just gorgeous. So this is the two of them side by side. So obviously this one's a little darker. It's got a little bit more tint to it. So you would want to keep that in mind, but I think you can get lighter. I'm sure you can get lighter shades in this than what I got. This is just the one because I did buy it online that I went for. I'm obsessed with this. Again, I don't often wear it alone. I don't find that it has any coverage to it, much like the NARS one. It is just sort of like something to put on under your foundation to give yourself a little bit more of a glow. Same with this. This is the Dior Backstage Face and Body Glow. This is in the shade 001 Universal. It's got the same consistency as the MAC Face and Body. It's just all shimmer. I'll put a little bit just somewhere. I don't know. We'll put it here. It's all just like this shimmery, glowy, you know, product. It is beautiful. It is very, very fluid. It mixes well with foundations. It'll actually thin out some foundations. Like I used to do that with MAC. I lost the lid. Sorry about that. I can't really remember what I was saying. It's very fluid. It will thin out some thicker foundations if that's something you guys are looking for, if you're like me and you do like a bit of a thinner foundation, but it does. This one is more glittery than the other two. The other two kind of just have like a reflect to it. This one has got like, I don't want to say glitter, but it's definitely more, I don't know, shimmery than the other. So this one's a little bit more intense, but I still do really, really like it. My Hourglass, what is this called? Vanish stick in the shade Linen. I'm pretty sure I decluttered this in my last declutter series because I really am not a fan of this stuff. It is so... I don't think it's the right shade for me, even though they did color match it. I'm pretty sure. Or it oxidizes really bad because it always turns really, really orange. Or, you know, sometimes it goes really, really yellow, and I don't like that either very much. I find that Hourglass products tend to do that. They tend to pull a little bit more yellow than I want them to. I'm not a fan of this. They say you can wear it thick or thin. I have a really hard time shearing this out because it is in stick form. At this point, this has probably gone bad. But I'm not a big fan of this. Again, if you are better with makeup than I am, maybe used to working with stick foundations, you might really like this, but for me, I'm not a big fan of that. This is another new one for me. This is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. This is really expensive. I'm in the shade 4.5 for this. How do I feel about this? I haven't gotten a ton of use out of it yet, if I'm completely honest. It is, again, like that CoverGirl Clean Fresh foundation. This is one of the last things I bought before I went on my no-buy. So I've only worn it like twice maybe not even, maybe only once. It is okay. I think I need to figure out how to work with it. It does give a beautiful, beautiful finish. It looks great when you first put it on, but I do find that after a little while, it does sort of settle into pores and into creases, particularly around my nose. It, if you do have even a little bit of peach fuzz on your face, it kind of clings to that a tiny bit as well. I have another foundation that does that. I don't remember what foundation it is, but I was having that problem over the weekend where whatever foundation I had was clinging to peach fuzz. I didn't want it to, but I can't for the life of me remember which one it was. Whatever. Might have been my Urban Decay Naked Skin, but I was just having a time on the weekend, so I do like this. I've also had a problem where it doesn't mix perfectly well with every primer I've put it with. I had it with a primer and then a setting powder, and it completely separated. It looked horrible. I had to restart my makeup. Just something to keep in mind that this one is not friends with every other product you put it with, like some foundations are. This one likes specific products to go with it. This is another kind of highlighty sort of a product. This is the MAC Hyper Real Foundation in the shade Rose Gold FX. It is just a super, super glowy kind of a product. I would never wear this on its own personally. Here it is, just right here. Like, it's very, very rosy. It certainly is not, you know, a standalone product unless you want your face to be completely like pink, but it does have that same kind of like a pearlescence effect. It works really, really well when you mix it with foundations. I don't even know if this is still available. I hope so. It came in another shade that was more like golden, but this was the one I went for. Again, really, really nice. You're going to hear that a lot from me about MAC products. I find that MAC does foundations very, very well. There have been very few times that I've been like disappointed by a MAC foundation. I have the Clinique Even Better Glow Light Reflecting Makeup SPF 15 in this shade CN40, which is Cream Camois. I really like this as well. It again, is a glowy kind of foundation, as most of mine are. This is the way the bottle kind of looks. It, again, much like some of the other ones, can be difficult to work with, but once you get it going, it gives the most beautiful finish to the skin. It lasts all day. It doesn't settle funny in creases, which is really important to me. I really, really like this. You guys would have just seen me do my dupes video with the L'Oreal True Match Lumi, so we all know that this shade is just too orangey, too dark for me. I mean, it's pretty close to my Urban Decay shade, which just proves that I'm buying the wrong foundation shades, because I do think that I like to look darker than I am. I like to have a tan. I feel like it makes you look a little bit more like healthy and lively. Not that there's anything wrong with being pale. I rock that most of my life. So I do like this. I think the shade is wrong. I got N3, which is Natural Buff. It's okay. This one wears pretty well. It settles a little bit where I don't want it to, but I mean, the Urban Decay one kind of does as well if you're not careful with how you set it and how you prime it and all that sort of stuff. So again, I've only worn this that one time. I need to play with it a little bit more to know how I really feel. And the last thing I have is the Too Faced Do You foundation in light beige. Now this is full coverage, but it does have a glow to it. And it's got a little bit of like a watermelon-y smell. It's not so much so that it's sickening, but there is a scent to it, unlike a lot of other foundations which don't smell like anything. This is good. It's okay. It's a bit thicker. Again, I'm not into full coverage foundations. I just have a few just in case. Because no matter what you are, like if you are a full coverage, full makeup everyday kind of girl, you want to still have those ones that you can put on your errand days. And if you're like me and you're the other way around, where I would rather wear like a lot of light coverage or sheer foundations, every once in a while I want a super heavy duty foundation that's going to last me all day, all night, and just gonna, you know, keep my makeup in place. This is one of those. Again, this is probably gone bad. I got it 2 summers ago, and I know foundations don't last that long. Yeah, this one says 18 months, so it might still be okay, or it's going really soon. Would I repurchase this? No, I wouldn't. I bought it as part of the collection when I did the collection haul, but I do really like this. I totally forgot that I do have a couple of like powder foundations as well. Now I don't wear these anywhere near as often as I wear my liquid foundations, but they do get some use. So the first thing that I have is the MAC Medium Plus Mineralized Skin Finish. So this is more of just like a top kind of thing all over, you know, sort of powder. It is really, really nice. It is really sheer, which I like. It's very buildable. When you wear it, it doesn't look like you're wearing a powder. Like, it's just very soft in its finish, which is what I look for in a powder, which is why I still have it. I really like this. It comes in tons of colors. I think I got this around the same time. I don't even remember, but I don't wear it often, but sometimes I find that if my foundation is looking a little patchy, or my bronzer is a little bit much, or my foundation's pulling too orange, if I put a sort of light dusting of this all over my face, it just tends to even everything out, tone it a little bit down, because this is the color that I should be wearing. So I really like this for that. Next one I have is the MAC Next to Nothing. I am in the shade Medium. This was that foundation. It came out like a few years ago. It is just the softest freaking foundation. Like, it is, they have this in a liquid too, the Next to Nothing liquid foundation. I back to MAC that because I used all of mine up, and I haven't repurchased just because I have so much foundation. But this is another really good option if you like those kind of powder foundations and you're looking for something very, very sheer, very, very workable, very buildable. This is kind of the way you want to go. It feels like absolutely nothing when you put it on, and that's the way that I like my makeup to be. I don't want to be walking around town feeling like I've got a load of makeup on, even though I might. And the last one that I have, again, you guys will have seen this pretty recently, is my MAC Studio Fix. I got the shade NW22. This is a little bit more powdery than the other two, but the coverage is also a little bit more intense. Again, really good on its own if you're looking for a really, really light coverage kind of day. It doesn't look super powdery, which is good, but you could also layer this on top of a liquid foundation. Again, if you're having those days where it's kind of coming off a little bit patchier, a little bit splotchier, where you're having a little bit more problem getting a smooth finish, this is another really good one. Now I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about my sort of, I'll call them face powders, because they're not all technically setting powders, but most of them are. So the first two are my two Laura Mercier ones. So I have the translucent, which everybody knows about. I also have the translucent glow. I'm obsessed with this. It does have quite a bit of pigment to it. It is, you know, kind of like this goldeny champagne sort of color. But once you put it on, the color sort of melts away and it just gives you this beautiful reflection. I tend not to wear this one all over my face, although you definitely could. I like to sort of set my under eyes with this, kind of in my T-zone with this, and then I like to use this sort of like where normal highlight would pick up, so on my nose, kind of on my chin, around my mouth, definitely up my cheekbones. This is the one I like to go with. They work really, really well together. This one works the exact same way this one does. It's just glowy, as the name suggests it would be. I've also got one drugstore one. I have the Maybelline Fit Me in Light 15. Now this one does have some pigment to it, but it is the same consistency as the Laura Mercier one. This one is not radiant at all, but much like those powder foundations I was talking about, it is really, really good if you're looking to even out your complexion and your liquid foundation just isn't doing it, or if you maybe, if I'd gotten a lighter shade, I think this would be really good for brightening under the eye, or, you know, something like that. But this is the one I've got. I did really, really like it, but again, I haven't used it more than in that video, so all I can go off is one use. I have two of the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Loose Baking and Setting Powder. So I have the shade Pound Cake and Cupcake. Pound Cake is a little bit more like yellow toned, and then Cupcake is pink. Pound Cake I had first. I do really like it, but honestly I think I prefer Cupcake. I think, you know, depending on, like, they're both very, very fair in color, so I think if you pull a little bit more pink, you might like Cupcake. If you pull a little bit more golden or yellow, you might like Pound Cake a little bit better, but they are fantastic. The only thing I don't love about them is I don't love this. Like, they get so messy because they have that same like kind of spongy trampoline thing, but every time I try and use that, like, it's more evident on the Cupcake one. I've tried to use that to pick up product and I find that it just like gets stuck in there, and maybe it's because I'm using a wet sponge when I do it, but it just like clogs it and then I can't get any product out. I do really like these. I don't know, they're really, really good for setting powders. Highly recommend these. So like I said, if you are more on the fair side, kind of like I am, and you're not looking for a setting powder to add so much color, I think that these two are two really good shades. I think they do have one lighter one. It might have been more like purpley kind of tone, like had a lilac undertone, but these are the two that I have. Last, like, loose setting powder I have, this is the Becca Hydra Mist Set and Refresh powder. So this one also has sort of that like little trampoline thing in here, but this one, the mesh is just a lot more, the holes are bigger. I can't think of the word that I'm looking for. Not finer. I don't know. The mesh is a little bit different, so this one does work. The one problem that I had with this is I felt like it never came with a lot of product. Like, I don't think I've used a lot of this, and it's definitely like halfway gone. But that could be because they wanted that little like trampoline spring mechanism to work. I really like this. When you put it on, I don't know what it is about this formula. It does feel super hydrating, super moisturizing. Like, it just feels like you're adding like a little spritz of something to your face, but it's a completely dry powder. I really like this. I was so pleasantly surprised by it. This is one of those things that came in a BoxyCharm that I actually like would consider picking up again because I was really, really happy with it. Now I've got a couple more like radiant powders. These aren't setting powders per se. These are just like top coats for your face if you're looking for a little bit more radiance, a little bit more finish. So this is the Hourglass Dim Light Ambient Lighting Powder. So this one is just, you know, it gives you like this beautiful light sheen all over the face, very luminescent, but not glittery and not crazy glowy. Like, it's not super obvious that you've got some sort of a reflective powder on. It's just, It kind of melts into your skin, melts into your foundation, gives you the most flawless look. Would be really, really good for like in the day touch-ups. Like rather than bringing a ton of foundations, this would be a really good option just to bring this, pop it on your face when you're feeling like you need a bit of a refresh. It is so, so good, but it is so, so expensive, but not as expensive as this. These are the Guerlain Meteorites. I have the shade 3 medium. So they are these like little, oh gosh, little like pearl ball things, and you just sort of swirl your brush in them and it picks up like this beautiful, I hope you guys can see it there, like pearlescent, I'm gonna go this way, sheen. They are very, very nice. Honestly, I don't know that these work as well as the Hourglass does. I really like them, but I think that the Hourglass is easier to use just because of the formula, and it is less expensive. These are crazy expensive, and I don't know, it's one of those things where I always tell you guys, like if you have a gift card or you're saving up for something for a really long time and you want to try these, they are really nice, but I'm not going to go out of my way to recommend you guys get something that I know costs so much. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to talk about in this particular video are my concealers. I used to only have like 3 or 4, and like I said, just over this past year, I've been getting a little buck wild with how many I have been buying. Like, it's been intense. So we're gonna go through all of these. So the first one that I've got is the Benefit Boing Hydrating Concealer. This one is, I think, my only stick concealer. It kind of has this hydrating balm on the outside and then the color on the inside. I really, really like this for when I've got dry patches, if I have like a pimple or something like that that I've been picking at, or sometimes I do get little patches of eczema on my face. I find that this is really, really good because it kind of gives it a hydrating boost as well as covers it. And because it's got that hydrating stuff, some concealer will cling and actually amplify a lot of dry patches. This one does not do that. I used to have all of the Boing concealers. This is the only one that I kept. I've got my NARS, what is this called? Soft Matte Complete Concealer in the shade Light to Vanilla. I love this stuff. I don't tend to use it as a standalone. I kind of use this to brighten under my eyes a little bit before I add a bit more liquid concealer, but it does work really well on its own. It kind of just gives like this sheer coverage that cancels out any darkness, any redness, anything like that. I put it on with a beauty blender and I do really, really like it. If you were, again, trying to make sure you didn't look super cakey, especially in the under eye area, you could definitely build this up a little bit more. It's very buildable and it does not cake up. It doesn't crease. It's really, really nice. I have this, this isn't really a concealer so much as it is kind of like an under eye brightener. This is the Catrice Camouflage Cream Wake Up Effect. So this kind of is similar to, it says concealer cream for a fresh look. I don't wear this as a standalone because it is so pinky, but it does remind me an awful lot of the Becca like under eye brightener or whatever that stuff's called, just for a lot cheaper price. I do really like this. Now this cream is not quite as fluid as the Becca one, but I think I could fix that by just working it with my finger a little bit before I put it on, kind of warming it up, making it a little bit more fluid and a little less sticky. But again, this looks really, really nice under a lot of concealers. It does definitely give you a brightening effect, and you really can't beat the price point on that. Next one I have is my Urban Decay Stay Naked Correcting Concealer. I do really like this concealer. I really like the applicator actually because it kind of gives you like this angled doe's foot, which I think is very, very, I like to call it the ballerina toe because it sort of looks like a ballerina standing on point. I do really like this. It doesn't settle weird like the foundation can sometimes, and it does just look, it looks very, very natural, but it isn't the most intense concealer. Like I definitely have concealers that cover a little bit better than this one, but it is still really, really good. So the next one I'm going to talk about is one that unfortunately I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure. Also, I never told you I am in the shade 40 NN in this concealer. I think this one's discontinued. I think they replaced the Naked Skin line with the Stay Naked. So I had the Naked Skin Urban Decay in light neutral, and I have a backup because I think when they launched Naked Skin, I panicked that they might not have this anymore. This is my favorite concealer. It has been for a long time. I do find that this one has a little bit more coverage than the Stay Naked. I don't know why that is, but I do really, really like it. Urban Decay does really, really well with their concealers. I'm bummed that they don't make this anymore, so I'm not going to talk a ton about it, but I have it. Another one that I just got that I haven't even used yet, this is the Wet n Wild, what's this called? Photo Focus Concealer. I picked up the shade 834 Fair Beige because I realized I was buying concealer that kind of matched my foundation, and since I like to wear my foundation so dark, the concealer was also dark, so I wasn't getting any kind of like brightening or highlighting effect from it. And it was actually making my dark circles stand out a little bit more. So I'm sort of in this revamp period of trying to get lighter colors of concealer. Mind you, I still do have a lot of dark ones, but whatever. So this is new. I haven't used this yet, but I've heard really, really good things about it. Another new one that I actually didn't like when I used it, this is the e.l.f. 16 Hour Camo Concealer in Light Peach. Not a big fan of this. I don't like the way it settles. It's very difficult to work with. It dries up really, really quickly, so it doesn't, like, unless you're gonna put it on and blend it immediately, which I tend not to do, to be honest. I tend to put it on, do my brows, and then pat it in because I find it tacks down. This one doesn't need that tack down period, so I've only used it once. With that in mind, I might try it again. I also think that this is just way too fair for me. Like, my hands are sort of the fairest part of my body, and this is like white in comparison to that. So it does look a little bit insane, a little stark. I might need to go a shade up in this if it's worth trying. I'll see how I feel about this one again before I bother buying another one. I got the Pretty Vulgar Undercover Concealer in 60, what is this called? Little White Lies. This came in a BoxyCharm. It's okay. I do find that this concealer is really fluid for some reason. Like, it's very wet concealer, which is fine. Like, it blends out really, really, my hand is going to be so concealed, you guys. It does blend out really, really nicely. This is a good color for me. I think I didn't pick the shade, obviously. It just came in my BoxyCharm, but it does tend to work for me. Not my favorite concealer, doesn't have the most staying powder. I find that a lot of it does blend away when you're blending it out, but that could just be me. It is really, really nice. This one, you guys know I love. This is my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I have the shade Light 2.5 Creme Brulee. I love this stuff. It is so, so good. So, like, the coverage on this is just outstanding. If you're looking for, like, a really intense full coverage concealer, look no further than this. It is super expensive, but if you're interested in trying it, I know they started making mini sizes just so that you don't feel like your wallet hurts so bad when you buy it. But it is really, really good concealer. My MAC Studio Finish Concealer, this is an NW20. This is one of the most, like, full coverage, intense, cakey concealers that I have. Probably the most. It is really good if you know how to work with it, but if you are not good at working with cream concealers, as I have lost the ability to work with, it can look very, very cakey. A little bit goes a long way. Just be careful is all I will say. I don't use this a ton. I use this on really, really bad breakout days just to spot conceal. I used to use this under my eyes. I tend not to anymore, but you definitely could. Just, again, be careful. It is so thick of a consistency and so it covers so well. It's just a little bit terrifying. I have two of these Maybelline Instant Age Rewind concealers. I have the shade Light and the shade Fair. I like to use Fair kind of under my eyes, and then I use Light kind of everywhere else for spot concealing. I do really like these. I think that they are a really nice formula, and for a drugstore product they're great, but they are a little bit watery, a little bit sheer in the coverage area. So if you know, didn't need a lot of coverage, I think that these would be really good for you. If you're looking for some industrial strength concealer, these might not be the way to go. Another drugstore concealer I recently got, this is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow Concealer. I got this kind of in conjunction with my foundation just to see if I liked it. This is in the shade 01 Classic Ivory. I know a lot of people don't really like this, but I really do. I think it's really nice, particularly for me. This definitely gives me a brightening under the eyes. It's got a little bit of reflect in it, which I'm fine with. It kind of matches my foundation, which is nice. So I like this. Again, I've only used it once, maybe twice, so I need to get a little bit more wear before I make a definite decision, but my first impression was pretty good. I've got the Maybelline Fit Me concealer. This is in the shade 15 Light. I probably should have gone a little bit lighter. This is a little bit orangey. It is quite similar to the NARS one. It's supposed to be a dupe. I did it in my dupe videos. Is it exactly like that? No. Is it close enough that if you really want to try the NARS one, this one might do the trick for you? Possibly. I can't say. I think if I'd come from this one into that one, I would feel a little bit stronger about that, but because this is the one that I got second, I know I like the NARS one. It had a lot to stand up next to. It's an okay concealer. It's just not my favorite. I have this Becca Aqua Luminous Perfecting Concealer. This came in a BoxyCharm, I think. No, I bought this at like Winners or something like that. I like this a lot, actually. This is in the shade Light. It is very fluid, as you guys can probably see by the fact that it won't stick to the walls of the container, which is not a big deal, but just something to be noted. It's really, really nice. I like the way it covers. It is very hydrating, which is really nice. Again, like I said, sometimes when I've got drier patches or I do get a little bit dry under my under eyes, this is a nice concealer to use to kind of brighten up the area and correct colors while also hydrating. I've got this Hourglass Vanish Cream Concealer in. Maybe Cream is the shade name because there's a lot of writing underneath here that I can't see. So we'll go with Creme is the shade name. I'm hit and miss with this concealer. Sometimes I really, really like it. Sometimes I really don't. Sometimes it's, this is one of the products that I know for sure does not like that Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk. They separated like crazy when I put them together. And it looked horrible and I had to redo my makeup and I picked another concealer and then the foundation went on fine. So I don't know which one was really at fault or if together they're just not a match made in heaven. This is nice. It does give a really nice effect. It can crease up a little bit. But again, I've only used this a couple of times, so I need to get more use out of it. I do really like the packaging though. I love the frosted glass. And you do get a lot. Like, this is an expensive foundation, but you do get 6 milliliters, which is pretty good. So if you're looking to splurge, maybe an idea. I have 2 of the Urban Decay All-Nighters. I have one in the shade Light Neutral and one in the shade Fair Neutral. Like I said, recently I realized I was buying concealers that were just too dark for me. So I went back and I bought one in a bit more of a brightening shade. So I used the lighter one under my eyes and I used the darker one for more spot concealing. I love this concealer. I really didn't for a long time, but I went back and tried it again and it just takes a little bit more work because this is like the full coverage version to the Naked concealer and the Naked foundation. Like, there's a foundation that goes with this too that I don't have anymore, but it is so, so good. The packaging is unbelievable and it blends out like a dream. Like, these are so good. If you're looking for a really good foundation or concealer, they are a little bit more expensive. I think they're like $38, which is not cheap, but it's also not the most expensive one I've shown you here. So just keep that in mind. The last one that I have is my MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. This is in the shade NW20. I have a love-hate relationship with this, and the only reason it's hate is because I hate the freaking pump. If they would put this in a bottle with a doe foot applicator, I would use nothing else, I swear to God. This is such a good concealer. It's so fluid, so fantastic. It blends, again, like a dream. It really covers anything you ask it to. It is so, so good, but the pump sucks. You feel like you either don't get enough or you get too much product and you're wasting it. I'm not about that. It is so, so good. It's been around for a long time. If you haven't tried it, I do urge you to do so. I think that's going to be it for, look at all of this crap over here. I think this is going to be it for this video. I've already put a lot into it and I don't want them to be crazy long. My palette video was like almost an hour long. So I'm going to stop it here with just the concealers, the foundations, and the sort of setting powders. I think for another video I'm going to be doing like setting sprays, primers, that sort of thing. And then I'll do eyeshadows, lipsticks, all of that sort of stuff as well. So if you guys like these kind of videos and want to keep seeing my collection, then give it a thumbs up. Let me know down below. Feel free to recommend other products that I don't have. I am going to be putting up a no-buy wish list video because I've never really had an opportunity to do that. I've never not buy not bought makeup. I've always been like, I want that, and then I go get it. So I'm going to be putting up a wish list video of stuff that I want to get after my no buy is up. If you guys have things I should be adding to my list, let me know down below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.